As I am a videographer, I pretty much solely rely on MacBook Pros for editing. This is a 13-inch MacBook Pro, not mine. My MacBook Pro that I currently edit on is a 15-inch MacBook Pro from 2014. So it's a little dated at this point. It works fine, but I'm looking to get something a little faster to hopefully increase efficiency. And I was stoked that Apple came out with some new MacBooks a couple weeks ago. If you want to look at their 13-inch MacBooks right now with the Touch Bar, they actually have a quad-core version of the CPU, which is pretty insane. As well as their 15-inch MacBook Pros now come in an i7 or i9 CPU with 6 cores of power. That's awesome. So as soon as I saw that, grabbed my credit cards, tried to buy it, didn't work, but I think that was probably a good thing. Before addressing the new MacBook Pros, let's briefly talk about Apple's design principle. So take for example their laptops. The MacBook Pros is a 13-inch prior generation. It's a relatively small, really thin, and elegant product in my opinion. Really portable, it's so nice. Then looking at Apple's Magic Mouse. This is their the first generation, so not the greatest comparison, but it's a relatively sleek product. Then look at the iPad Pro. Really thin, awesome screen, great performance for being an iPad. But all these products and many other products have their quirks. Their 13-inch MacBook Pro, because it's so thin, they're limited with what they can put hardware inside of it, whether that's CPU, GPU, battery, or even their cooling apparatus for cooling down the CPU. Then take, for example, the Magic Mouse. Again, this is the first gen. The second gen, though, it has rechargeable batteries, and the way you charge it is plugging in a lightning cable through the bottom of it. That's a little weird. Not a deal breaker, but still a little weird. And then look at the iPad Pro. The camera bulges out a little bit, and if you're someone that uses the Apple Pencil, you have nowhere to store the Apple Pencil. And if you want to charge it, you have to plug the Apple Pencil into the iPad's Lightning port, which in theory is a nice and easy way to charge the Apple Pencil, but it still makes your iPad look like a giant lollipop. So now circling around, what quirks are these new MacBook Pros going to have? Well, obviously at this point, all of Apple's laptops have USB Type-C / Thunderbolt 3. You should be expecting that. Probably that's never going to change. But like I said prior, these laptops are so thin. Apple is very limited with what they can actually put inside of these computers just because of how thin they are. And that makes me wonder, how well are they going to actually perform? Even though you can get an i9 CPU in a MacBook Pro that's supposed to turbo clock to up to 4.8 gigahertz, is it actually going to do that? Well, we have some examples of that. A guy on YouTube, Dave2D, he bought a i9 MacBook Pro, as well as a ton of other people that have been doing benchmarks, but his video was one of the firsts. And what he did was, he was a Premiere editor for videos, of course, and he was running some benchmark tests, trying to figure out how much his i9 MacBook Pro is blowing everything out of the water. Except it wasn't. It turned out that his brand new i9 MacBook Pro with 6 cores of power that turbo clock up to 4.8 gigahertz was actually slower than his last generation i7 MacBook Pro, solely because the i9 CPU was thermal throttling to That is insane. Not that I would expect MacBooks to not thermal throttle just because of the size factor that they are, but the fact that it thermal throttled so much that it could not even outperform a last generation MacBook MacBook Pro rather, is unacceptable. Luckily though, and surprisingly, 48 hours after Dave2D made that video, Apple did reach out to him. They tried to recreate the tests and benchmarks that he was doing, and Apple did discover some problems and glitches within their software for the i9 CPU. So a software fix later, and surprisingly, the i9 MacBook Pro is not doing that bad. It has risen in performance, I think about 30%, and it's pretty much hitting the performance that Apple claimed on its website. Unfortunately, you're still not utilizing the entire i9 chip. It's not really going to be turbo clocking up to 4.8 gigahertz consistently while rendering out video, but it is performing a lot better now after Apple released this patch. So it's good that Apple is, going in the right direction. And it makes me now still a little bit more interested to buy this MacBook Pro with the Core i9. Whether or not I'll actually get it is debatable, working on Hackintoshes now. But what about you guys? Would you be interested in a MacBook Pro i9? I mean, in theory, yes, it's going to be performing a lot better than former generations of MacBooks, and if I did absolutely have to buy a new MacBook, I would definitely still consider it. But at this point, I might just consider to wait a little bit longer. By next year, Apple will probably do a slight bit of a design overhaul, maybe at least on the internal side, hopefully increase their fan and cooling performance to make these chips even better. So, in my opinion, I'm going to try to wait for next year. Might be a year from now, might be a year and a half from now. We'll see. Will I probably buy a new MacBook in the meantime? That's a possibility, but of course, we'll see. But guys, let me know what you think in the comment section below. Are you interested in this MacBook Pro? Maybe the 15-inch variant or the 13-inch variant? Or did you already buy one? I don't know. Let me know in the comments below. Anyway, I'm Eric. I'll catch you in the next one.